नाश्ता कर रहे हैं सर, बंद करो बस खाने को। इनका क्या हो
जुड़ रहे होंगे।
जुड़ जाएगा ना थोड़ा सा भी।
आप जुड़ तो गए।
वो एक जो है ना, मेरे ओरिजिनल बात किया मेरे
जी इसमें हुए हैं।
सारी क्लास कैंसिल होगी।
हाँ तो ये भी स्पीकर आ ही नहीं रहा है तो इसलिए आवाज नहीं आ रही होगी। अभी आज तो आपको पैनलिस्ट में दिखने लगेंगे ना, सेम सुबह के थे। ठीक, हम कर लीजिए सर। हम जो सर 9440 4400 11 गीता कुछ करके आता है इनका नंबर बस। नहीं कुछ और।
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, thank you. नहीं कर ली।
नहीं मैं
हाँ, very good.
बात कही।
Hi, Star.
सर जी सर, वेरी गुड आफ्टरनून सर। वी आर हियरिंग योर वॉइस सर।
Good afternoon, sir. Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Nice, sir. Your first session was very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed for the next, sir.
Yeah, next. Determination of sample size.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you. Welcome, sir. Again, welcome.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Go to the next slide.
Sir.
Yeah. See, this is a very easy, simple topic. How much is to be the sample? Is there any scientific determination of this method? How much is the representative? Is the $1 million question. So there are certain formulas for that. Before we go, the best illustration, the simple that we can relate to. And this is not quite abstract. This is something that we have been following since time immemorial. Traditionally, historically, these things, since the time immemorial, man has been following all these things. And instead of reading concepts and all, let us take examples from society, from community, from all around us. I'll take election results, right? Pre-poll surveys, very, very common. And I'll give example of my own Andhra Pradesh. And I'll try to explain to you the sample size determination. And 2014 and 2019 election has taken place, and our Jagan Mohan Reddy was leading, in fact, before elections position. Every survey was telling he would definitely win the elections and all, and elections were not conducted. Surveys were saying that. So while 10 to 15 days before elections, Pawan Kalyan factor is there, a cinema star, Chiranjeevi's brother. He started supporting BJP and Telugu Desam, Chandrababu Naidu. As a result of that, Jagan Mohan Reddy lost elections by margin of 5 lakh votes. Right? Predictions are different. If any unexpected event happens, results will be turned upside down. Right? Anything in the last minute, any developments that take place that is going to influence the entire election output and outcome. The point that I am trying to drive home is that most of these pollsters, election result experts and all, who will give a lot of predictions and all, this has become a major business in India. Most of the media will give a lot of predictions. This party will come. They say they give ballpark figure, some rough figure they'll give, and they before elections also they give, and after in a phased manner elections are conducted. They all give exit polls, just counting, give results. So and so is likely to win. These many seats he will get, like that. All these things they will say. This is a great business nowadays. We must be about Prashant Kishore. Prashant Kishore is very famous in Andhra Pradesh. He was the consultant for our Jagannath Reddy. He has a team of IIT and IIM educated people who are practicing this method, I'm saying. And he was a Harvard teacher, Prashant Kishore. And he is involved in election manifesto preparation, poll strategy management, conducting surveys, and stuff like that. At the moment, he is advising Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal. Right? What he has done as far as 19 elections concerned, I'll give example related to our topic. And better illustrate instead of I'll try to explain this one also, but I give the background of all these things, how we can relate and can understand these things. So Prashant Kishore was instrumental in developing Navratna 9 Gems election manifesto for Andhra Pradesh. They have given, keeping in view different segments, different strata of society. For farmers, what is required? For unemployed, what is required? For poor people, what is required? So they have prepared 9 gems of that election, Navratna election manifesto, like giving prohibition of liquor and house pattas, free house sites for the people, pension 3,000 rupees. And like that, some Navratna manifesto was developed and designed by Prashant Kishore so that it will be able to touch upon all the people. I'll also take some more examples from Bihar, very recently concluded elections. Nitish Kumar was before election. It was a foregone conclusion. Nitish Kumar will win. Slowly, what has happened? Tejashwi Yadav started pulling the crowd and all that. Within 15 days, the whole scenario changed. And media also started giving favorable predictions towards, because on the basis of the crowd that is coming, media started giving predictions about Tejashwi, how many seats he will be able to get, like that. And the strategy this time they adopted was not about communally polarized Bihar. This time they talked about development, employment, Naukri, and in the post-migrant labor issue, they started talking about a different language of providing Naukri, Rojgar. And for all migrant laborers, they promised 50 lakhs jobs, government jobs, this job, like that. BJP also promised, this man also. So, and they have gone beyond caste equations. They talked about jobs, they talked about vikas, they talked about development and all that. In a phased manner, election has taken place. In that, one unexpected thing that has happened. What is that? In the last phase, Nitish Kumar said, "This is my last election, I don't contest." And that has turned the tables. And when the counting was also just a day before elections, also most of the people, most of the media was telling Tejashwi will become the chief minister. Right, on the counting day, neck to neck results were coming, and difference most of the people must be like 30,000 votes, something like that. Right, very narrowly he missed. From this, what we can understand is that, and any unforeseen, unexpected thing, any major event that happens, that will change the election outcome like that. So we have to take different sample sizes from different strata and try to analyze their feelings, their preferences, voting patterns like that. So if you see Bihar, like farmers sample is there, segment, business people segment, professionals, doctors, students, unemployed youth, women, old people, casual labor, migrant labor, employees, and with a caste factor, and how the lower class people expectations, middle class expectations, upper middle class expectations, rural voters, urban voters. Like this has to be divided under all these strata. And we need to choose a representative sample from all. It may be 100. That much. The size, determination of sample size, really very, very influencing factor to have a pakka accurate these things. It is a great business for, as I told you, political marketing we call. It is a great business and great industry. A lot of people are directly, indirectly involved in election management. It's a great business in India, across India. Some state or other elections are happening, right? So the media is busy and they send people for surveys and all that. What kind of surveys that take place, whether to give survey for allotment of MLA or MP seats. Existing candidate is there. To measure his dissidence and anti-incumbency, and they conduct some survey, whether they want a change of candidate in that constituency, or the same person can be allotted seat. So all political parties, they have a wing, they depend on, they outsource this one, and they get very, very authentic information. Periodically, it is to be done. They can conduct something and they cannot rest on the laurels. It is something to be done periodically, and after every event, these things will also change. And every 3 months, once in 3 months or 4 months, 6 months, this is to be conducted about to know the public opinion, about public perception about their governance. If they don't know, if they don't do that, their boat will be rocked and they will be sinking. The ship will be sinking, and they will get drowned. That for that purpose, Prashant Kishore here has done a lot of hard work in bringing Jagan Mohan Reddy to power. What he has done, he has, collected information about all potential MLA candidates, MP candidates. He carried out SWOT analysis, and he has given completed, authentic, confidential report to Jagan Mohan Reddy. And he may be charging crores of rupees for the kind of service he is doing, but he has, as I told you, some IIT, IIM educated team of people who are experts in IT and all that. They conduct a pakka survey, and without any bias, they give complete, correct, authentic information about the results, right? So basing on that only, they may be able to take decisions to whom to give. For some people they deny the MLA seats, for some people they deny MP seats. Instead of that, they'll offer something else because they have some unfavorable, negative reports, negative feedback about the particular candidates and all that. So now that Prashant Kishore is busy advising Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal in matters of manifesto preparation. What are the estranged segments? How to bring them into our fold? Is there any anti-incumbency factor? And social media management nowadays. social media is playing a lot of key role in opinion building, right? It may be Twitter. Twitter is playing a key role. Entered India, like how many followers are there for Modi, for Trump, for every cricketers, for all these people. Twitter is a basis for building opinions and to know the feedback and all that. So we have Instagram and we have LinkedIn, we have WhatsApp groups, and we have even in Facebook. In the Facebook, I could see all your without coming to Varanasi, I'm able to see your inauguration photos and all celebrities who have come, and including some girls who are giving the prayer singing and all these things. I could see the pictures. This is primarily possible. Whatever is happening immediately through social media, the whole world is getting to know, right? And this has become a new platform for the people, and they have to conduct some periodic surveys, constituency wise, district wise, etc., so that they can estimate anti-incumbency factor, they can carry out the SWOT analysis. What is the strength, what is the weakness, what is each and every candidate SWOT analysis they carry out, and they prepare the basis of that whole strategies and planks. What should be the appropriate plank? What should we offer to the free? This is essentially welfare state, and we have in almost all states. I don't know about North India. Even in North India, they give computers free, cycles free, laptop free. Like the same culture is prevailing here also. We give all free. Jayalalitha started giving mixer free, grinder free, gas stove free, right? We are also giving so many populist schemes even in Andhra Pradesh. So many pension 3,000 rupees. And every family member without working, they get a lot of money. If you have a school going children, mother will get money. Like that. So politicians to get perpetuated into power, they are doing all these things, and they are following all these sample size determination based only on this is what their future depends on this method only. And they will try to take corrective measures basing on this. I'll get back now. We'll see determination of sample size. What is the appropriate size, and how much is representative sample and all that. We will see sample size. The determination of sample size. First one, sample size is the number of observations taken from a population. You have a population, from out of that, how many to be taken? It is the part of the population chosen for a survey and experiment, right? So from that, whether it is 100 or 200, 50, what is the criteria for choosing this? Is there any mechanism? Is there any formula for that? How much is sufficient? How much is adequate? So it should be neither more nor less, right? And it is the subset of the population selected to make inferences about the population, right? The sample, as we have discussed in the morning and all that, this has to be very, very representative, and size must be adequate. Whatever size it may be, 30 or 100 and all, it must be representative of the population. And without randomly checking and all that, you cannot come to conclusion. So what is happening here? Even COVID test and all that, lot of tests are being conducted. 1 lakh tests they conduct, they find out some percentage. On that basis, they say this much percentage of infection rate is there, like that. And fatality rate also they are calculating, how deadly the virus is, and country-wise statistics they are giving. Italy, these many people, out of infected people, how many died? How many infected? How many treated? How many survived? How many died? So from that statistics, they are able to know how deadly the virus is, how fatal the virus is, country-wise, state-wise. Different mutations are there. Even the same virus, different mutations are there. People say 300 mutations are there. Every 3 months it is mutating and changing its these things and all they are saying. And the people are also talking about new virus now. Their new virus is now striking Europe and also especially London and all that. They are talking about that, and which is very, very severely affecting the people, more powerful by 70%, like that. Infection rate is more, people are talking about. On what basis we can say this is only sample statistic that we calculate? What is the relation? What is the percentage of mortality? Like that they are calculating. So a lot of statistics involved. This is how they are following this method. That's what I'm trying to say. Large and sample theory. Let us see if the sample size is 30 or more, it is known as large sample. In the large sample, the sampling distribution of statistical or normal right. So it is FTC. You're able to hear me?
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you, sir.
Yeah, screen it is. Screen, see, it is visible. Screen.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, sir. Screen is also visible, and you are so audible, sir.
Very good, very good. So large and sample size theory is there. You go to the next slide and we'll talk about that. Determination of sample size. The slide. Determination of sample size. In this, before collecting data, it is important to determine how many sampling are needed to perform a reliable analysis. As I told you, in the election, it's a great industry. Appropriate number they have to calculate. We have a lot of media, India Today and NDTV, NDTV 24/7, Republic TV and GTV, all these channels before elections, very authentic, very credible reports they give. They follow certain sampling methods, right? They have different segments of people and different polarization groups are there. So they estimate the population size of farmers, how much is adequate to know about farmers. Farmers are happy, unemployed are happy, business people are happy or not, women, world women. So like that, for every segment, adequate sample size must be there. And sample size determination is a mathematical estimation of the number of population units to be included in the study. There is a formula to be followed that we will discuss in the later stage. Sample size must be adequate to represent the population. And the determined size should be optimum and has to be obtained by the scientific method. It has to be very, very rational. There must be scientific way of determination of the sampling size. Element of every research based on sampling. Most of the research scholars, they commit mistakes here only in the determination of sample size. And most of the people do not know what exactly is a sample size. In the morning also we had a Viva course and we had online Viva. The person who was defending his thesis, he was saying about different sampling methods. For sometimes he says simple random, sometimes he says cluster sampling, sometimes he says, and the examiner's chairman of the committee says that there must be only one sample for all. You should not use for everything 2 or 3 like that. So you have a confusion and ambiguity as far as which sample I am using, which is needed, and what is the size of that. And if it is 2 things are very pakka, whether it is a probability sample, non-probability sampling, quota sampling, whatever method you choose, that's okay, right? And what should be the size? And size should not be neither more nor less. And if it is more, one problem is there. If it is less, some problem is there. That we will see here, factors affecting the size of the sample. Next slide, factors affecting the size of the sample is, first one is nature of the population. As we are talking about in the typical election, what is the Bihar population? What are the, their attributes, characteristics, and all? If the population is homogeneous, fewer cases will be enough. But Bihar is not homogeneous. Different people are there, different communities are there, and disadvantaged sections are there, women are there, unemployed are there. So if the population is homogeneous, if sample size is less, chalta. But if the population is heterogeneous, diverse groups are there, results especially, diversity is there. People are very, very diverse with regard to the income, socio-economic background, educational background, religion, beliefs, right? The people priorities are different. And another factor here is that sample size, availability of the resources. How much money is there, how much budget is there. If it is a political party, they don't mind spending anything. They want accurate results, right? They give crores of rupees for consultants. You give me results. And these consultants will recruit very premier institution boys, very bright boys with a lot of technical computer expertise and all that. So the political management was not like in the past. Things have changed now, and every political party is managed like a professional corporate, right? And they have a lot of they have very deep pockets, very rich resources are out there. They don't mind spending money, but what they want is precision, accuracy in results. The resource available, including time and money, are to be considered before determining the size of the sample. One of the important factors to be taken into consideration is the availability of resources. If the resources of time and money are not a constraint, we can choose the appropriate size of each population and come with a very accurate results. Large sample size may be taken if sufficient time and money available. That's why doing a survey is not easy task. It is fraught with a lot of risk and uncertainties. They have to go to the interior places, talk to the people. It's not just like giving questionnaire and trying to probe their mind. They don't give answers, right? So they have to adapt a lot of technique. They mingle with them, they talk to them, and indirectly they ask about so many questions. They don't give a feeling that they are interviewing them, right? So indirectly they try to get all responses from them, right? So availability of resources is a factor, and the people who are conducting survey go to the interior places, they stay in hotels, and even during summer they go there. They're facing so many hardships because they go to the very remote areas to get the surveys and all that. So what type of third method is, what type of sampling method we are using? And we have so many methods we have discussed in the morning, right? Water sampling, cluster sampling, and stratified random sampling. Which method you are using, that is also important for determination of sample size. If the sampling method is restricted random sampling, small sample will be enough. In simple random and sampling, more numbers are to ensure representation of all. In the cluster sampling demands more sample while compared to stratified sampling. Stratified sampling and cluster sampling, we are just making comparison. Stratified because out of every stratified, out of every stratified, we take some percentage. As I told you in hypothetical examples, executives, what is the number? And in proportion to their population. And middle level people, how many? Lower people, how many? Like that. So whether it is a stratified random sample, cluster sample, the sampling method also decides, influences determination of sample size. And also one more important factor here is a degree of accuracy required. What is the precision level? 100%, 90%, 50%? What is the precision that is required? These are all the very decisive factors and which will influence the determination of sample size, right? And especially in election results, if anything goes wrong and the image of the channel is affected, like what has happened in the Bihar elections. First they said it's a cakewalk for Nitish Kumar. Later they said Tejashwini will come, and there was a divided opinion. Some people in favor of Nitish, some people in favor of Tejashwi and all that. Even on the county day up to counting also, most of the people that seeing the trend also, Tejashwi will be able to win like that. So even a small margin of error, right, likely to upset the whole results. It has happened only 30,000 people difference is there. Most of the women probably voted, or postal ballot might have influenced, whatever may be the fact. So coming to here, nature of analysis. Fifth one is here, nature of analysis. What kind of analysis you are doing? Factor analysis, ANOVA test. What test you are doing? How you are subjecting, how you are statistically treating that. That also influences sample size. Sample size may be influenced by the statistical tools and tests a researcher plan to use for analysis. And the complex multivariate statistics needs a larger. So there are a checklist of factors which are very, very decisive, influencing and profoundly influencing this sample size determination. The fixed factor used for sample size calculation. Sample size is influenced by the factors used for sample size calculation, such as population, margin of error, confidence level, variability of others. And what are these things we'll see now in the next slide. Elements used in sample calculation. Elements used in sample size calculation. Margin of error. What is this margin of error? A margin of error tells you how many percentage points your results will differ from the real population value. 97, right? 95, 90. The margin of error is the range of values below and above the sample statistic in a confidence interval. So how much difference is there? 2%, 3%, 5% difference is there. We must be able to know margin of error. And the margin of error can be calculated in two ways, depending on whether you have a parameters for a population or statistics from the same sample. So, and margin of error, critical value into standard of deviation for the population. A critical value, standard of the sample. These are methods through which margin of error can be calculated. We also talk about confidence levels. What confidence? And the confidence level indicates the probability with which the estimation of the location of a statistical parameter in a sample survey is true. We can say 90% confidence level, 95%, 99%, right? We can say how much chances are there? 50-50 people say. 90% he may win. That means 10% doubt is there. So these things will also influence, and we have given some examples also. A survey asked 2,000 Indians to 24 years whether they were in favor of the plastic ban in restaurants. Overall, 75% of the respondents answered yes. The confidence level for the survey had been set at 95%. The margin of error was set to 2%. Due to the confidence level, there is a probability of 92% of the actual percentage of supporters within range of 73 to 77. This is how I have given some typical examples for the calculation of these confidence levels, and with which the precision and accuracy of that can be measured. There is also variability, sampling variability, and the different variables are there, and basing on that, that is also a factor which influences the determination of sample size. We have sampling error. We know you have discussed in the morning what is a sampling error, which is not a representative of the total population, right? So sampling variability is how much an estimate varies between samples. Variability is another name for range. Variability between samples indicate the range of values differ between the samples. And sampling error refers to the differences between the sample and the population that exists only because of the observations that happen to be selected for the sample. Increasing the sample size will reduce this type of error. If we take more sample, this possibility can be reduced, right? So if the sample size is less, we have a doubt in our mind whether it is a true sample, representative sample, whether it is able to give real, authentic, precise results or not. So if the sample size is increased, and there will not be any such a problem. So that's the thing. We need to take into consideration all these factors. Next factor to be taken into consideration is types of sampling errors. What are the sampling error caused by the act of taking a sample? At the time of taking a sample itself, error, they cause sample results to be different from the results of the census. And as I told you, taking the Bihar example and all that, any mistake anywhere, maybe with regard to farmers, migrant labor, women, children, uneducated, educated, and this time, as we have already discussed, they have gone beyond caste, no caste, only development, only Rojgari, only employment. And that has influenced, and they have gone beyond their traditional vote banks. And each party trying to woo the other party's vote banks. Like that, and for the first time in the annals of Bihar politics, and they talked about providing employment for 15 lakhs people, providing employment to 20 lakhs people. Like that issue has taken place because during the COVID time, we have seen a lot of migrant labor, especially from Bihar. We have seen them, what kind of problems they have faced and all that. How they were walking along the roads while once out of employment, they don't have any means to support themselves with the family, with luggage, and all these very grueling and heart-wrenching scenes. Everyone very pathetic and scenes we have seen, almost of all of us. And walking along the railway tracks, and some even while taking rest on the railway track, how they were crushed by moving trains, how many people lost their lives. So barefooted, some people were in the scorching, blazing sun, without water, without food, how they traveled and all. That became major issue in Bihar elections. And what they said, why should we go to Maharashtra? Why should we go to other places? Let us provide Rojgari, let us provide employment for our people, teeming millions of all Bihari youth only here. Rojgari idhar hi milna hai. कोई जगह जाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं, जीना यहाँ मरना यहाँ. So this is how that slogan appealed to most of the people. Why should we go like refugees? Why should we live in some places? How we are subjected to North India, South India, West India? These sort of concepts are coming up, right? So, and politicians are whipping up regional passions, and especially in Maharashtra, this fellow is from North India. Bihari hai, iska hata do. And a lot of problems in Bombay they faced and all. And they realized first time, most of the people, they have gone back to roots, they've gone back to their villages, and they, let us find some employment here only. There are so many short movies in Netflix and all available about migrant laborers. Short films are available. While I was watching that, I could understand the kind of problems these villagers who are moving to urban areas in search of greener pastures. They go there, they face a lot of problems, discrimination, and especially in Bombay, a melting pot, but they face a lot of discrimination, and North India is different, West India is different, like that. So these election issues, what they say, if you have employment here only, why should you go there, like that? That has become a major issue. So these are all the things which will ultimately influence a sample size. And as I'm telling you, statistical errors or sample errors, we have no control over that. Let us see what is not non-sample errors, which are also very, very decisive. Non-response errors and response errors. Response errors in the sense that we collect information from the respondents. In the response itself, there is some ambiguity. The response is not proper. It may be interviewer bias, recording errors, transmission loss, and poorly designed questionnaire, and measurement error. There may be a bias creeping into there in responses, anywhere, anything, which is likely to distort the entire results. That possibility is there. So we have to make allowance for all these things, right? So we cannot say that this is error-free, a sample error-free like that. And there are certain limitations of any research, and we have to make allowance for that. Then only we can say our results are accurate, precise, and it is reflecting the true picture and stuff like that. So having considered all these factors into consideration before going for determination of sample size, these are all things which are likely to profoundly influence any method of sample size determination. Key points on sampling error. Non-sampling errors are inevitable in production of national statistics and important data. At planning stage, all potential non-sampling errors are listed and the steps taken to minimize them are considered. Like that, we have population size. This is the total number of distinct. If the population is finite and known, it can be taken as a factor to calculate sample size. Sample size is calculated differently for infinite and finite, known as unknown population. We are coming slowly to the determination of sample size, which is very simple topic, which is a part of sampling, which is very, very essential, important for all research scholars. The $1 million question for most of them: how much is too much? How much is adequate? Right. So we have seen in this class, to recap all these things, and before we proceed further, we have so many factors to be taken into consideration. Right. And slowly we are coming here. There is a method of calculation of these formulas. If you know the population, one formula. If you do not know the formula, or if you do not know the population, there is another method. So population size is a very, very decisive. And optimum sample size, right? What is optimum sample size? How do we get to know? And next slide. An optimum sample for a study may be defined as that sample which fulfills the requirements of efficiency, representativeness, reliability, and flexibility. Here. And what is the definition? What is the criteria for that? Next slide, it is not population size, it is about optimum sample size we are talking about. Yeah, you have come to that, right? So in this, what we can see is that optimum sample size for a study may be defined as that sample which fulfills the requirements of the efficiency must be there, it must be representativeness must be there, reliability and flexibility. These 4 criteria must be fulfilled. That only we can say optimum sample size. Otherwise, what will happen? Election results turn upside down and all. That will upset a lot of plans. And it is a great industry for business people. A lot of people, every future economy depends on the predictions that we are making. If any mistake is done on the part of the statistician in determination of sample size, the results will be very, very untoward. Right? So the economy forestall unnecessary expenses. Unnecessary expenses is large enough to help the researcher avoid sample error beyond the limit to tolerance. So it should be large enough to yield statistically representative, and it should not be less, it should not be more. Like that, some balanced optimum size must be there, and factors influencing optimum sampling. The nature of population, homogeneous or heterogeneous. Population is a very diverse group or like-minded people. We have to see complexity of tabulation. What you are using is very simple or complex in the tabulation. So that you are using, and problem related to collection of data. So if all these factors are pakka, then we can say optimum sample size. The optimum sample, these factors, And optimum sample size is required for the following reasons: to allow for appropriate analysis, provide the accuracy, and to allow validity of significance test. So the precision, accuracy,
नहीं तो आप ऐसा करना, इनको जरूरत होगा तो इनसे आप
Excuse me, sir. Hello. Hello.
नहीं तो 15,000 हमने इनको दे दिया।
Am I audible, sir?
जो पैसा लोगों को ऑनलाइन ट्रांसफर करना होगा, 15,000 मैंने दे दिया।
Sir. Am I audible, sir? Hello.
hello, you are able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Now we are able to hear you. Unfortunately, mic has been.
Yeah, some disturbance. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
No problem.
some disturbance.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Coming back to the optimum size and all that depends on the appropriate analysis and desired level of accuracy, significance of test, and all these things are very, very decisive for optimum size. Because why optimum size is required is that the outcome depends on this. Now that we are moving to the very, very important thing, that the method to determine the sample size, we are coming back to the real this thing. This is the crux, this is the essence, this is the bottom line, right? And there are certain methods. The first one being rule of thumb method, arbitrary approach, no scientific method, right? It is a rule of thumb method which specifies a fixed percentage population as a sample size. You take 10%. जो मन में आया वो ले लो. 10%, 15%, 5%, like that. So, according to this approach, sample should be at least 10% of the population, and 20% is the ideal one. Right? Some people will say, if the variables are 10, for every variable you take 20. 10 into 20, 200. If the variables are 20, 20 into 20, 400. So they follow some rule of thumb method approach, which is not scientifically proven, right? And that depends on the precision, correctness, representativeness of the results. If we want to have 100% or 95% accuracy, 99% accuracy, probably this method may not be suitable. There is an element of arbitrariness in this. This is only unscientific and a rule of thumb method. And traditionally, historically, most of the people follow, right? This method, 10% of the population, right? We also follow this method sometimes, depending on this. When we do not know the population self, we have to take some 10%, supposing 1 lakh people are there or 50,000 people are there and all that. Some 10% of that sample size we try to take. This is a very, very popular method, easy method for all of us to follow and all. There is also another method in this conventional approach. According to this approach, the average sample size of the similar studies can be taken as a sample size. And what other studies have taken, what is the method they have adapted? And we try to see others similar test in that what sample size they have used, and we try to emulate the same thing. Statistical analysis requirements approach. The another approach is that the sample size is determined on the basis of the proposed statistical analysis consideration. What statistical analysis we are to do, and for that, on that basis only we try to take the sample size. Sample size is determined for the requirements of the statistical technical analysis. Supposing which tool we are going to use, what a statistical treatment we are going to use, which particular technique we are going to use. And in this context, I should tell you, in recent times I've been going for so many vivas and so many these things. We get fancied over too much of tools and techniques our people are using. We have a local technical university, JNTU, Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University and all that. There is a pre-talk time. I sit through all these committees and all, while they give a lot of presentations. And one thing that I notice, a glaring deficiency that I have been noticing is that they're using a lot of techniques. They say structure analysis, they say factor analysis, ANOVA test, this test, wonderful, very good. But when it comes to giving the suggestions, giving any suggestions, I asked some of the students, you have identified the problem. Okay, where is the solution for this? And it is like a patient is there. You are conducting a lot of tests, blood tests, urine tests, scanning, CT scan, X-ray. Okay, you have done that, and you have to give a prescription. Having identified the problem, you have to give a prescription. So just for the sake of using tools and techniques, my dear students, don't use them. You don't get carried away by those things, right? If you are using a tool, you have to understand why we are using and what I am decoding, what I am encoding, what I am decoding. After that, you have to give interpretation through these tests, right? And this is the problem. This is the suggestion. In all these studies, I am not finding suggestions. Okay, patient disease you have identified after conducting a bad trap test. Even without conducting tests also, you can find the person is very patient. From the symptoms, it is very, very easy for me to make out the person is suffering from some illness, right? And you have conducted as a pathologist so many studies, but what you are ultimately giving, you are not giving any suggestions and all that. So, and too much of tools and techniques in recent times because of SPSS and all that, very, very copiously, bountifully, these people are using, little realizing its relevance. And after that, coding, they need to decode at the end. So this is a test I have given. What it says is that this is the identification of the problem. This is the problem. For this is the suggestion I am giving. You will get rewarded. You will get a PhD thesis and you will get PhD degree, not because of your using statistical techniques, but because you have identified a problem. You have given a suggestion for that. You have given a recommendation for that, my dear friend. But what I'm using, when I am using, where I am using, and how to decode that, and how to when valid, appropriate suggestions, they all make sense. So getting back to here, cost benefit basis, how much cost is involved, cost benefit analysis must be carried out. So how much is the expenditure, how much is the benefit out of that, we need to see. Otherwise, if you keep on studying for months together, you spend a lot of money. Ultimately, what you find is digging a mountain to catch a molehill. It's like you find out, and you got to analyze very, very dispassionately, critically, what is the cost that is incurred, what is the benefit that is occurring out of that. So this simple yardstick will make things easy for us, and this is a very decisive factor in determination of the sample size. We should take into consideration the money that is involved, the resources that are being spent and expended. It may be time, it may be money and all, which are very, very important resources. And for that, how much sample is to be taken is very, very influential. This will be influenced by that. Next, we have confidence interval approach. What it says, it applies the concept of variability, sampling distribution, and standard error of the mean. Number of formulas suggested by statisticians. And here, what is a confidence interval? What is a variability of the population? Variability of the population in the sense, different differences are there between people. No two individuals are same. Heterogeneity is there, diversity is there, especially in a country like India. Even within family members also, wife thinks differently, husband thinks differently, children think differently. And the same family, roof is the same, but हम अलग अलग है परिवार में. अब हमारा सोच विचार कुछ अलग है. जोरू का सोच विचार अलग है, मर्द का सोच विचार अलग है, बच्चों का राय अलग है. And we need to see the variability of the population and decide accuracy and the level of confidence. What is the level of confidence that is also needed? We should also see that. So before we proceed further, we have certain formulas. Cochrane formula. People say very, very what is the confidence level interval approach? Come to the main formulas to calculate sample size. We have come to the actual these things. Cochrane, some formulas are there. Formula is given, and this is in fact development by William Kroger. And the formula is given here. M stands for sample size, Z standard error associated with the chosen level of confidence. And we have certain Z values for confidence levels are given. In the next table, if you just see confidence level and value for Z, here it is given. In the table is there. It is already, it's a ready-made kind of thing that is available. In the next slide, if you can just see, and Q stands for 1 minus P, E for sample error. If your formula, if you take and substitute with all these values, you get some sample. That I will see some hypothetical examples I have seen. We'll try to this one. Z value, you move to the next one, next slide. Z values for confidence level. If the 90% confidence level, it is 1.645 like that. And 92, how much? 95, how much? This is a standard table is already given in that. And if the 90% level, confidence level is there, that means Z value is this much. This is already established one. Most of the people are using ready-made formula and all that. We should try to use that. See, and we have taken a hypothetical example in the next slide. Conducting a survey, next slide, if you go, and we are seeing Cochrane's formula, that is, we have substituted the values, and here, conducting a survey to assess how much customers are fully satisfied with the product or service. I was giving you the morning example of a Colgate, what is that, oil pulling, Colgate oil pulling. For that, if you are able to know whether people are satisfied with this or not and all, here, variability, that means P value is 0.5, the confidence level is 95%, sampling error is 5%. If we substitute all these things to the formula, Z square into P into Q by E square. If you substitute the values and all, calculate this one, sample size is 384. It works out to 384. This is a simple formula. And if you know that formula, if you have the formula, you substitute these values and you will arrive at 384 samples. This is a acclaimed and most famous formula by Cochrane, and Cochrane's formula we can cite in the thesis itself. We can cite this is the method that I am following. Cochrane has given this formula. I am following this. You can say, you can cite, and then there is credibility, there is a reliability, and you are lending a lot of elegance to the sample size determination by saying, by taking the reference to these formulas. And next one is Solvin's formula. We have another formula same way here, n by 1 plus ne square. Where n stands for sample size, n again population size, e for margin of error. It is also called Amini formula. And in this here, in a study, size of the population is 10,000. Margin of error is assumed to be 2%. So in this also we have calculated, and n sample size works out to 2,000. So sample size for the mean for infinite formula we have given here. Like this, if you follow, we have a certain Morgan formula is also there. What is the Morgan formula? And we have certain tables. If you go to the Morgan formula, you will find this is very, very important. Crange's Morgan formula, and already certain values are given in this. Go to the next slide. You will be able to find, and you take this one and try to work out, taking the some examples like that. If you are able to work out the formula, substitute the values and all, you will get the sample size. And also very prominently used, as I'm telling you, apart from rule of method and arbitrary methods, some scientific formulas, most acclaimed formulas which will stand out. Like we have three formulas which will stand out. One is Morgan formula, and Cochrane formula, and Amini formula. These are three formulas which are very, very predominantly used while at the time of determining the sample size. You can choose any one of them which appeals to you, which is easy for you. You can choose any of them, and there are no hard and fast rules. There are no strict rules that you have to stick to only this one and all. So, and here, I mean, some values are given here, and you can substitute them. You can follow this method, and this is very authentic and very good formula kind of a thing. So, getting back here, predominantly, what I'm trying to say is that to sum it up, and so that we can review and recap all these things, is that we have started with a sample size in the first 2 o'clock when we just started. What exactly is a sample size and stuff like that. And we have come to post-lunch session. We have come to the second level, is that sample size determination. We talked about election results, and we talked about pre-poll survey, exit poll survey, and especially when it comes to the sample size determination, we need to definitely talk about a field where elections are conducted, where this tool is predominantly used, right? So in the all media, they have certain very popular, if the so-and-so agency says, means accuracy, 100% accuracy is there. And the credibility of that depends on their accuracy. Supposing one NDTV 24/7 or some channel has given so-and-so party will win, right? And if it is not true on the election day, next time the people will not believe that. So that means something is fishy, that they are trying to influence the voters and all, and they have some ulterior motives and designs in giving these sort of things. They are trying to influence the voters and all. So the people will read a lot of things into these things. So the credibility, the image of any channel depends on the kind of formula that they are using, methodology, determination of sample size. So if they follow all these things, then only credibility will be there. Otherwise, credibility will be lost. And this is a major industry. Election is a major industry. And in all states, they have to scientifically follow all these methods. And then the research methodology that they are adopting, on what basis, how much sample size they have taken, and how many strata, how many segments they have taken. They have to clearly state. Otherwise, this will be very like upset the results, and it will discredit the channels and all. Now, as I'm telling you that in this study, the case study of Andhra Pradesh, how Andhra Pradesh, by employing one consultant with experts, IIM, IIT educated experts with a huge computer skills and all that, how the results were proposed just before elections, a few aspective factors, how they will influence and upset the results. And we talked about the 2004 and 2019 elections. Next, how he has rectified the mistakes and how he roped in Prashant Kishore in 2009 elections, how they have prepared Navaratna manifesto, we have talked about that, and how he successfully led by adopting completely election maneuvering and election poll plans. And this is how he has been an expert consultant, a political consultant, and emerged as a national figure like that we have talked about. And Bihar elections also we reviewed, and Nitish Kumar, and how his victory was foregone conclusion, and how the results changed after Tejasvi Yadav's crowd pulling this thing, and my last election card, how it has influenced, how it has changed, and how much difference is there in the voters. And we also talked about different segments, like for the first time, how Bihar has gone beyond traditional caste affiliations. They have gone beyond, and how they have taken samples from farmers, business people, and professionals, students, unemployed youth, women, old people, casual labor, employees, and lower class, middle class, upper middle class, rural voters, urban voters, how they have taken different kinds of people, and how they have influenced. This is what we have seen, and how the pre-poll survey before and after giving seats for MLAs and MPs, how the surveys are conducted for existing candidates, for potential candidates. They give a questionnaire in one near some Ghaziabad is there, for instance, some Varanasi is there. And if one political party, Samajwadi Party or BSP, wants to give seat to X person, there is already existing candidate, but there is a lot of frustration with that fellow, a lot of disaffection. People are disgruntled with him, and they don't want to vote for him. And then they want to, who is the next candidate? Back base, and they will be in jeopardy. Then this sample size, they should be how we will try to clear through all these crises and all that. And in the preparation of manifesto and social media management and Instagram, LinkedIn, WhatsApp groups are formed, and building some positive vibes about the political party, trying to reduce the dissidence in that, and carrying out SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threats, and periodically carrying out institution-wise surveys and district-wise surveys, and giving feedback to Mamata ji, and so that she may be able to take some corrective measures and all that. And they also try to how political other rival parties are making inroads into her strong Bayesian, and to estimate and gauge the anti-incumbency factor. And this is how they may be able to draft and firm up political strategies and plans. In the light of all these things, they may be able to take appropriate measures, and so that they may be able to of this. So with this, we can say that we have come to the conclusion that this is a wonderful, easy, simple topic which is essential, most significant and important for every research scholar to know. And we have spent some quality time, maybe around 3 hours, very quality time we could spend with you. And we could simply highlight 2 different topics which are closely related and associated we have taken up. And I should be thankful for Jaiswal Saab and Aish Kumar and a lot of other factors, and Alok Chakrawal for giving me the opportunity and recommending me to you. And I must be very, very thankful to you for giving me a wonderful chance of interacting with the North Indian University, Varanasi University, very, very famous, most celebrated government university, and situated and located in a holy place, and having the blessings of Kashi Vishwanath. And I under the tutelage of Jaiswal Saab, the institute may be making sites. And I have been seeing the photos and all through Facebook and all that. I'm very much impressed. The kind of care he is taking towards the students and all that, especially running the coursework and all that. And he has got all professional approach, corporate style he's adapting. I really congratulate you for properly guiding and drawing this to key academicians across India. And thank you very much for giving me a chance. Now it's over to you. I'm done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's really a pleasure for us that we have experts like you, and we are in connection since your last lectures, and we hope our students will be benefited more and more, and hope we will continue our academic relations
Definitely, sir.
in coming future too. And as I have told, if possible, I will invite you for the Baba Vishwanath Darshan too also.
Sir, I will be blessed to. I want to seek the
keep
blessings of Kashi Vishwanath.
Yes. I hope please keep blessings yours on us and our departments. When we will talk to you and need your time, you will give us your time. Again, we are thankful on behalf of the Faculty of Commerce and Management Study, Department of Commerce.
Thank you, sir.
We are highly thankful for your services rendered to our research scholars in a form of delivering a nice lecture, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Looking forward to meeting you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.